Coming up on this episode of the Dad Hat Shenanigans podcast.
What I didn't have in that identity at that time was that I build my children, like literally block by block, step by step, piece by piece. I'll tell you what gets me fired up is building my children, because I know that what I'm doing there when he was 3 and what I do tomorrow when he's 7 will build the literal man that he's going to be, the dad he's going to be to my grandchildren. I'm building my grandchildren's parents right now, every single moment. And so it's like, oh, wow. Now that gets me excited. And my son, this little guy, he's 6 and just literally living his best life. And it was like, I don't know, just a euphoric moment of something that I created. One, I get the pleasure, the joy of taking the responsibility of going, okay, who is this individual going to be? What does the best version of them look like? How did that little boy who didn't have a dad, who had nothing, how did that get here? The best advice I could give to a dad is be better than what you were given. What do you think makes a great man? Again, 6-year-old answer. He answered, Mom. Whoa. You just have to want to do better. I learned a long time ago, Brent, that people do what they want to do. People do what they want to do.
Chaz, every dad has that story that just lights them up. Like when you sit around with other dads, that story you just like to tell about your kids that makes you laugh. Even if nobody else gets it, what is your favorite dad story?
Yeah. And so it's got a couple components to it. My favorite dad story is a story that I tell about playing a game of Uno with my son, but it has nothing to do with the game of Uno. Unfortunately, it has everything to do with me as an entrepreneur being too focused on my businesses and missing the moments with my son at that moment. And so the story is actually me retelling it to other entrepreneurs, which I do often now, which is that I'm so obsessed with building. I love to build. I am a builder. In fact, that is my identity. That's how God made me. I build things. I build businesses. I build teams. And what I didn't have in that identity at that time was that I build my children, like literally block by block, step by step, piece by piece. And it was in this Uno game that I kind of like clicked it all together. It was like, it wasn't about the game. It wasn't even about the time, because when I thought about going to work or building a business or closing a deal, it got me like all fired up. Exactly what you were saying. Like, what gets you fired up? Well, business and closing a deal got me fired up. And when I thought about playing Uno with my kids, it was kind of like, okay, well, I'll do that. I mean, that's dad stuff. That's fine. But it didn't get me fired up. But I'll tell you what gets me fired up is building my children. Because I know that what I'm doing there when he was 3 and what I do tomorrow when he's 7 will build the literal man that he's going to be, the dad he's going to be to my grandchildren. I'm building my grandchildren's parents right now, every single moment. And so it's like, oh, wow. Now that gets me excited. So I don't know if this specific situation is helpful, but it was an Uno game, but it had nothing to do with the Uno game.
Gentlemen, I sleep on my pillow. I sleep on my pillow Giza sheets, and with my MyPillow body pillows to hold my back in place. I have MyPillow towels. My wife even wears MyPillow slippers. I would never recommend a company I don't personally use. We're proud to have Mike Lindell and MyPillow as the sponsors of our show. You can go to mypillow.com and use promo code TFM, super complicated. That's my parent company, The Fallible Man. Code TFM for up to 80% off your order and free shipping on orders over $75 for our listeners. You're working with a great American company that is employee owned, and you're helping keep the show on the air so we can make more episodes just like this one. Let's get back to it. Welcome to the Dad Hat Shenanigans podcast, the unfiltered truth of being a dad. Real dads, real stories, unfiltered, candid conversations on fatherhood. I'm your host, Brent Dallin. My guest today is serial entrepreneur, host of the Driven to Win podcast, Dad Chaz Wolfe. Chaz, welcome to the Dad Hat Shenanigans podcast.
Whoop, whoop. Definitely feeling the dad hat shenanigans over here with my hood on over here.
I'm liking it. It's a very unique look that I haven't had before. So
You haven't had it. I knew that was the case, so I had to bring the heat.
right, it's original. It's very different. Mainly, I just like to stress everybody out about the hat thing. So
Yeah,
now,
it's perfect. It's perfect. I'm rocking it, and actually, the memories that it brings are fantastic. So I'm excited to get into it.
well, let's go straight there to start for our listeners, because some people that watch on YouTube, but most of them listen. What are you wearing, and what is the dad hat story?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm wearing uh, a bass. Hold on, a Bass Dash fishing shirt with my company logo. GTK stands from Gathering the Kings. It actually says GTK for life, and it's got a hood on it. Right, it's a fishing hat. Protect you from the sun. And the story, Brent, is that earlier, actually, I would say earlier this year, last year, we just flipped over to a new year. Last year, we did our first at GTK, Gathering the Kings. We are a community for entrepreneur families. We help entrepreneurs build their businesses so that they run without them, so that their families never have to. It's pretty cool. And so we did our first father-son trip. And so I took my son, he was 6 at the time, on this fishing trip. We went down to just right outside of Houston, I think it was. We were on the Gulf hunting or fishing for redfish, and we got some black drum and kinds of fun stuff like that. But my son, I'm a hunter and like land pursuant things, The fishing thing has just never been my style. Probably just because it just takes too much time and I'm not patient enough. But this type of fishing was a little bit more of like a hunt. Like you search for them, you find the school, you kind of go after them, you bring them in, and it's kind of a mad dash. You got to get as many as you can. Sometimes you need to replenish the shrimp that's on the line, and you go back at it. And you're going at it. It's just super active. It was fun. So it fit my style of like desire of wanting to be active. But my son truly has had no fishing experience whatsoever, other than random lakes that we happen upon. But the dude will make a fishing line out of a stick and a string constantly, because this is apparently what little boys do. I don't know if I did it because I'm not big into fishing, but my son loves to fish, even though he's never really fished. And so I was so excited to take him on this trip. And he just absolutely had a blast. We did some cool stuff with the fathers and sons, had some really cool questions that the dads asked the sons. I actually brought that sheet here today, so if you want to go into some of those, it's kind of fun. But I remember being on that boat, fishing these black drum, I think is what at the time. And my son, this little guy, he's 6 and just literally living his best life. And it was like, I don't know, just a euphoric moment of something that I created. One, so I loved that part of it. Like, man, I intentionally built this environment for me and him to connect. But then also it was cool because there's other dads and other sons there, and they were connecting, we were connecting. But yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things where I look to market. So I don't know what we'll do this year. Maybe it'll be another fishing trip, but I'm excited to spend time with him in that way continually as he gets older. And I don't know if it'll be a fishing trip with a interesting little hood or not, but we'll have more memories to come in the future for sure.
You know what? I'm glad I'm not the only father in the world who struggles with fishing.
It's the worst, bro. Now, I will tell you, you get me on a charter and we're going after that was fun. That was super fun. But just in a fishing hole and
mm-hmm. I live in central Washington. It's high desert. And my oldest daughter, years ago when we went on our first family vacation together when the girls were little, my brother lives in Colorado, and we stopped at his place, and him and I took the girls camping for the first time in their lives up in the mountains of Colorado. And he took them fishing, and my brother is Mr. Outdoors.
Yeah.
And so he took him fishing, and I'm like, I can do it. I don't want to do it. Right. He loves this stuff. Like he'll backpack into the woods with just his backpack and his dog and be gone for 4 days.
Yeah.
Like that's his idea of a good time. Like, I'm like, yeah, no, I can survive. I don't want to go do that, but I could do it. We grew up, we were very capable of doing these kind of things, but I still don't want to do it. Right. But he got him fishing. My oldest daughter really took to it. So we've been fishing ever since.
Okay.
I'm a horrible fisherman. I'm so bad at fishing. I don't like fishing, but I love hanging out with my daughter. So like
Yeah.
once it starts getting warmer in spring, we'll start heading out to the lakes like 4 o'clock in the morning or something,
Yeah.
and be there for sunrise and be fishing. We'll fish for a couple hours before we come home, but we rarely catch anything. Like I keep watching YouTube videos trying to learn how to fish. I'm like, it's
Yep.
man, give me a spear
It's
gun.
just the time.
Like
Just chalk it up to the time of building your daughter.
give me some fins and a mask. Give me a spear gun. I'm down. But
There you go.
this whole
That sounds
tossing
cool.
in off the lakeside, I need to buy me a
Yeah.
boat so I can go out on the lake. I think that
That's
would
right.
help. But
That's right. Yeah, you got to
I,
get into a pursuit. Got to get into a hunt.
I'm glad I'm not the only dad who doesn't dig the whole fishing thing. It's
Yes.
right. I
Yeah,
know
it's
so
too
many
slow.
fishermen are like, fishing's amazing. I'm like, uh-huh.
Yep. Yep.
Chaz, how many kids do you have? Boys, girls, what's the spread?
Yeah, we got 4 kids. My daughters are 12, 9, and 3. My son is 6.
Okay. So you got a good group there.
Yeah.
And you told us a little bit about your company. Who are you? What do you do? Give us a little more backstory before we
Yeah.
start down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. I own several businesses, but my heart and soul is in gathering the kings. And we get to work with entrepreneurs to help them build their business in a way that gives them freedom. And ultimately, for family-driven entrepreneurs, ones that not every entrepreneur actually wants to spend more time with their family. I've learned. Not every dad wants to spend more time with their family or kids, but the ones that are attracted to us are. They own a business, but their business owns them, and so we kind of help reverse that so that they can spend time with their family and build their legacy.
I love that. I'm going to have to call my friend after we wrap up this interview. I've got a good buddy of mine that I love him to death, and he's got, multiple girls, and I adore them. And he owns a trucking company. But
Or
like
the trucking company owns him.
oh yeah, for the life of him, he just cannot.
Yeah.
He's even tried, like I turned him on to what's the name? Dan something. He's all over YouTube. Uh,
Oh yeah, Martell.
yeah, Dan Martell. I actually like
Yep.
sold him. I was like, you need to try this book because I tried Dan Martell's books. Like this is actually really great.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I was like, bro, you like I called him. I was on the car listening to it on audiobook. I'm like, you need to pick up this book right
Yes.
now because this is your problem right here. And he's still struggling just to find the right people who can. He's tried a couple times to hire people. He keeps struggling to find the right people, but he's
Yep.
so active in his kids' lives, and he wants his company, but he wants to be out from under it. So I may have to make some connections after this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be cool.
I love what you're doing because I think there are so many people who own small businesses that are owned by their business.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. It's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate reality, but it doesn't have to be that way. I used to think that it did have to be that way. Well, I mean, just as dads, like forget the business, right? Like
mhm.
as dads, we're protector, provider. Especially if we didn't come from much. We subconsciously are prioritizing financial security. We have a wife or a girlfriend, and then eventually kids, and it's like they're my responsibility. I mean, this is nature.
Mhm.
This is how I'm designed. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go do that thing. And it's funny too because most men, but especially entrepreneurs, we say that we're building it for them, but like they don't get any part of us. Like I have to leave you, the people that I say I love the most, to do the thing that I say is going to give me freedom to come back to you.
Mhm.
So it's just a little bit of a conundrum. And the truth is that they can have both. You can still be really busy because there's different seasons in business. There's different seasons in your job. Like even if you were working corporate America, like there's different seasons where sometimes you got to put a little bit more time in, a little bit more effort, a little bit more focus. There's 100% reality to that. But even in those seasons, there is a way to be intentional with your spouse and with your kids, to where it doesn't, the blow isn't hard, or there's no blow at all. There's, in fact, they still see you, they still interact with you, even though it's these little bits. The intentional piece of it makes it so powerful. Um, and you're actually the only one that knows that you're spending 12 hours a day over here because the other ones are just so intentional.
What's been your favorite part about being a dad so far?
Who favorite part? I would say that it's like I've built a lot of teams. I understand, leadership and a little bit of psychology and like, moving people into things or action or whatnot. And I'll tell you what, being a dad is up there with what it takes to be a good leader and to actually get results. That sounds a little transactional, but to get your kids, to be high performers, let's just say, to just use entrepreneurship language or work language. Really what I'm trying to do is get each one of them in their own unique way to be the best versions of themselves, to be who God created them to be. Well, guess what? They're all different. Well, fantastic. Now I have to have 4 playbooks. There is no playbook to dadship or fatherhood. So there is no playbook. And now I'm in the process of creating 4 different ones because they're all so unique and different. Wow, that sounds challenging. Guess what? It is.
And that's your favorite thing about being a dad?
It is the challenge, the part where it literally takes me going, okay, who is this child? Who is JC? And how do I need to deliver this information? What are her talents? What does God have for her? Okay, who is Milo? And what are her talents? And what does she need to grow in? Or, who is Tatum? Right. And that to me is the game, right? And so yeah, that's what I love most about it is the, I guess what's hard, I guess. Don't call me out like that, Brent. No.
Well, it's funny because it's a different kind of mindset, right?
Yeah.
And that explains a lot of the fact that you're an entrepreneur
Sure.
because you have to have a mindset that lets you look at challenge as an opportunity.
Oh, for sure.
And a positive thing.
Yeah.
To look at it that way.
Yeah.
Right?
I guess I see it like this, Brent. If I don't take ownership of who they become, or at least during these years, right? Because I can't, at some point, that ownership has to pass to them, right? They have to take ownership for themselves, for their own decisions. But right now, if I, as dad, don't take that ownership, the best possibility is that my wife takes it. I don't think that that's her responsibility. And so I get the pleasure, the joy of taking the responsibility of going, okay, who is this individual going to be? What does the best version of them look like? And let's start building towards that. And at some point, like I said, that gets handed off to just them. With my 12 and 9-year-old, we're beginning the pieces of I get to do some things, and then we get to do some things together. And probably in a few years, it'll be I get to do some things, we do a lot together, and you get to do some things on your own. And maybe that's how it is with my 12-year-old now, actually. But then it just becomes more on their own, some with me, less with me alone. And then eventually, they're their own adults, have their own families, that the information or the things that they need just from me is much, much smaller, but probably much, much, much more impactful. So I might only get, 1 or 2 hard questions a month or a quarter. But that's like the moments I get to show up, right? Because then the other times we're either doing stuff together or they're off doing their own thing with their own family. And that's like how it's supposed to be. But I get the ownership now to help that happen then.
I love it. When you were going to first becoming a dad, do you remember, did somebody actually give you any good advice? Because I know you got a ton of advice and most of it was probably crap. But was there anything that was actually a really good piece of advice that's helped you?
Oh, I'm gonna tell you a story short, and then because it's gonna break the question. I was just on our family mastermind. We do an event in the summer for entrepreneur families, entrepreneurs, spouses, kids. Everybody comes. It's a vacation / growth opportunity. We bring in speakers. We teach the kids how to launch their own business, like all kinds of fun stuff. So I'm at that event last year, and I had this guy. We're going back and forth on our stories. Like he was just super curious. I'm asking about him, his childhood. He came from another country. His parents came out of some sort of a revolution in their country and like barely came out alive. And like, came to New Jersey and like started this new life in America, and was kind of hearing his story, right? And then I tell him about my story and single mom family and da 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 da. And he's like, Chaz, I hear the story, but like it doesn't line up with the fruit that I see. I see this man in front of me who clearly loves his family. He's built this entire organization that helps families. You've told me we've had other conversations around fatherhood and being a good husband and entrepreneurship, and like I don't understand how did that little boy who didn't have a dad, who had nothing, how did that get here? And I was like, well, other than some books that I read, which I do recommend a few good books, I just feel like the Lord has said, I'm with you. He's been my dad, I guess. And I don't know how else to explain it. So to answer your question, no, I've actually never really been given fatherhood advice. I have sought mentorship for probably my whole life. And it doesn't mean that I've never seen it, but I've usually found it in a book or in some far off mentor, right? That I'm like following from a distance. Like you said, the book that you listen, probably Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. So like a far off mentor like that. I've got a lot of mentors, a lot of advice given to me like that, but never across the table. And so how did that happen? Well, it's like, well, I've just been trying to produce what I didn't have, I guess. So what's the best advice I could give to a dad is be better than what you were given. Be better than what you think you should, like be 1% better tomorrow than you were today. Like just be better, be focused and obsessed with being better. And that doesn't look like giving our kids everything. It doesn't look like being Mr. Nice Guy. It doesn't look like making them into, pro athletes. I think it just, requires you to sit down, evaluate your values. What is it that's important to you? What's important to your family? What does that later picture look like we just got done talking about? And then going, okay, how do I do that better today? And that's where the intentionality comes in. If you can't see a bigger picture or further down the road and then reverse engineer it into steps and then decide what am I going to do today to get closer to that, then you're just winging your life. You're just drifting, as Napoleon Hill says. And that's not going to be a good deal. So good advice, be intentional, be present, be better today than you were yesterday.
I'm just always curious because I found that like everybody and their dog has an opinion when they find out you're going to have a kid, right? And the majority of the advice is crap. I've talked to so many dads, and the majority of advice people give expectant fathers is absolute garbage. It's completely useless. So I'm always curious, pick people's brains. Like, I ask about what your advice is because I generally think we give some pretty decent advice on the show. Not me per se, but the dads I bring on, because it comes from their heart and from their lived experience. Yeah. But the lack of like useful, positive advice that seems to flow from people just in your physical orbit.
Oh yeah.
It's like, what? I don't understand. It's been around. Fatherhood has existed since the beginning. And like, still we have no idea how to help each other half the time. So I'm always looking for that. Did you actually get something useful or just kind of like, I listened to about, I listened to it all and I threw out like 97% of it. Listened to a couple dads that were really close that I had a lot of respect for. But other than that, like most of it, I just tossed it aside. I'm like, yeah, thanks, G. Yeah. Glad I didn't ask for that, but
Yeah, I think I may have developed either a callous or a bent ear, because when I hear really anyone's opinion, A, that I didn't ask for, or B, of people who I don't want what they have, I just don't listen. I don't care. You can tell me all day long. And so I've probably blocked all that bad advice out.
You know what? That's good advice right there.
Yep. Block it out. My wife jokes all the time. She's like, I think you actually really don't care what anybody thinks. And that's just so intriguing to me because I don't know how you do that. Just like, well, I, other than that's what success principles, tell you to do, is just really, again, figure out what you want and then do the things that get you there. Don't listen to advice, or don't do things that don't, like, okay, so I just cut out the things that don't matter.
Yeah, it's something that I think more people would benefit from developing. It's just the ability to be like, don't care.
Yeah.
People will
Yeah.
throw things at me all the time, or my daughter will ask me, well, so and so said this. I'm like, I don't care.
Yep. Yep.
It's like, but I was like, no, really, I just don't care.
Yeah. My
And
6-year-old, we were going through his pants 2 days ago, because he was basically telling me that he needed new pants. He's grown quite a bit. I'm like, okay, let's pull out all the pants. Let's try them on. Let's see which one fits, which one don't. And I pulled up some. I'm like, try these on. He's like, no, I can't wear those. I'm like, well, it says it's the right size, buddy. I got to at least see them on you. He's like, the neighbor boy says I look silly in them. I'm like, okay. So when did we start caring about what neighbor boy thinks? Like, what does that matter? In fact, these are my favorite. So then I go the opposite end, where it's like, trying to build him up and make sure that he understands that they're just pants and it's no big deal. But it starts from an extremely young age, where we care about what other people think. And as dads, I think that you're right. Everybody's going to have an opinion. And even though I think I've sought out good mentorship, to your point, I think that all the bad mentorship has just fallen on deaf ears, because everybody does give it. You're right.
I heard someone give it an interesting name the other day. They called it like the 5-year theory or something. And it's the majority of the people in your orbit will not be there in 5 years. So why would you listen to or change or care about their perspective or their opinion or their idea? Why would you let that impact you when like 96% of them will not be there in 5 years?
Yep. Yeah, it's so true. So at the end, who's going to be there, and that's what matters. That's it.
It's Chaz. We've had. I'm enjoying the conversation thus far, but what would you like to dive into today about being a father and for dads?
I can go 100 different directions. We've had some pretty interesting conversations. I did, like I told you, I brought this list of questions that I gave to the other dads on our father-son trip. Happy to go into some of those, or even some of the answers that my 6-year-old son gave. They're pretty funny. But I think just the again, intentionality of, because they don't need me give them 10 questions to ask their daughter or their son, right? You can just go to ChatGPT. 10 intriguing questions to ask my children. The point is that, are you thinking in a way as a dad to even muster up that type of intentionality? Do I actually care what my kids think about me? Am I interested in them? Am I curious enough to hear their opinions? And so if you want to go that direction, we can. Or if there's a different direction that you want to go, I'm down.
Oh no, that's the joy of my platform. This is your show, man. We're going to go wherever you want to. This is how I ensure that every show is different. Is I have my foundational questions for continuity, but
Sure.
I really am actually passionate about talking about whatever you are passionate about talking in fatherhood.
I love it.
Because then I get to serve more people, because it's not just my idea all the time.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, let me start with a couple of these questions. A couple of the fun ones were, what's one thing you've been thinking a lot about lately?
And these are questions to ask your children?
Yep. These are questions to ask your children. And so I asked my son, and I'll read you his answer. We were on the father-son fishing trip that I mentioned earlier. And he said he's been thinking a lot about fishing and that he wants to go again. Naturally, makes sense. I asked, what makes you feel the most confident as a young man? Of course, you could insert young woman. And he said, when he wins something, which is funny because just right after this trip, we started, he'd never really played sports or had an opportunity to quote unquote win something like a trophy or a tournament or a game. He had played some, rec stuff, but no real games or anything like that. So I thought that was really interesting, that he was motivated by winning. And I don't know if that's just because he's got testicles or or if I don't know. I don't know where he's gotten that so far. Maybe that's just the environment of our home, maybe. But right after that, he started riding his bike in BMX, like BMX racing. Actually, my 2 older daughters and him. And then eventually my youngest, my 3-year-old, does it as well now too. But um, he this year with NBMX went from starting novice, went all the way to intermediate, and got invited to a invite only national race at the end of the year. And you got to be in the top 10 in your age bracket to even get invited. And so then then you go through the semis, you got to get to the finals. And so of everybody that was there in his age group, he got second out of all these people from all across the country.
Wow.
And I just thought that was just the coolest thing, especially now reading this, going, what makes you feel the most confident is when he wins something. Now, again, he had never really won anything really before that. And so that's so interesting that he would have answered like that. Next one down, a little bit deeper, says, what's something you wish I understood better about you? And a 6-year-old answers that he can buy gum packs and mints on his own. Okay, buddy. You can buy gum and mints on your own. Got it. Of course, that question with some older kids would probably get a pretty cool answer, I think. Although I think that was pretty cool too. This one's super interesting. I said, what do you think makes a great man? Again, 6-year-old answer. He answered mom. Whoa.
That's some deep insight right there.
Whoa.
That is.
I mean, again, I've mentioned success principles here are some books. Think and Grow Rich is by far the book on success. It's over 100 years old. If you're listening right now and you haven't read the book, you absolutely should. But it talks about the power behind every successful individual, specifically related to a successful man, is a woman who has all the power in the world. And if she knows how to use it, can destroy or build that man. So I think his answer is spot on. How he knows that, I have no clue.
Chaz, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What inspired doing this with your kids?
Yeah, well, I mean, coming from the trip specifically, me hosting a father-son fishing trip, I wanted there to be some intentional time with the dads, not just out having fun. We had a pool at the Airbnb, we had the fishing, there was dinners and all the hangouts. I wanted individual time, with their sons, to ask some questions. Some to be light and friendly and fun and just be together, but some to like try to get some really, really cool answers, things that they could take and go, okay, how do I move forward with this? What do I do next with this information? And again, that kind of just goes back to what I was talking about earlier, as far as being intentional. I think that dads a lot of times are like entrepreneurs. And if you're an entrepreneur dad, really good luck, because then it feels like we're just running around with our hair on fire all the time, right? Especially if you're both, but even if you're not an entrepreneur and you're just a dad listening to the show, like sometimes it feels like an overwhelming amount of pressure, and you got your job and you got the finances and there's kids activities and oh, by the way, your wife wants you to help with X, Y, and Z or whatever. And it doesn't feel like it's easy, because it's not, right? And so what's really, really not easy in that moment is to go like big, deep breath and think for just a few seconds, how can I improve as a dad, or how can I improve as a husband, or how can I improve at my job, or, slowing down to speed up. And that's what intentional means. It's like to think about where I want to go and then script the next steps to help me get there. And so I think questions like this are incredible because it gives us insight, to even our kids. They have incredible things going on in their brains that oftentimes we just write off as, oh, that's just kids. Like, how did he know what makes a great man? And he says, mom. Like, what? How does he know that? And I didn't try to expand on that and try to teach him a lesson and, like, oh, you're so right, buddy. And thinking we're no. I just was like, that's such a cool answer. Why did you say that? And really all I came up with was, I love mom, like it was no deeper than that. But like somewhere in there, his subconscious, hopefully trained by me, but at least picked up something that behind every great man is an incredible woman. And I don't know, just insights like this make fatherhood more exciting too,
I'm not sure I would have thought about asking my daughters at 6 some of these questions. I think
Yeah.
we underestimate what we can learn from our kids at that age sometimes.
Oh yeah. Or even just to create the memory of him saying something funny. You know, I was trying to think of, um, yeah, like we've done like, okay, so for dad's birthday, my wife will get the kids together and then, okay, so what's dad's favorite, food? What's his hair color? What's his eye color? How tall is he? How old is he? Especially when they're real little. And the answers are like, how old is he? 175. And how tall is he? 22 feet, or whatever their answers are. What's his favorite food? Um, you know, whatever their favorite food is, pizza, or, whatever. And what that has done is it just creates fun memories. And so if you've got 6-year-olds or 3-year-olds or whatever, being intentional about just conversating with them, being curious about what's in their brain really is more than the actual result. Sometimes the result's just funny. But as they get older, man, especially if you've developed a rhythm of being curious, most humans are terrible at being curious. Most humans don't ask good questions. Most people don't actually care about the other person. They're just out for themselves, which is fine. Like that's nature, right? We got to take care of ourselves. We got to take care of our family. I'm not really interested in Brent. Brent's not really interested in Chaz. Okay, that's not 100% true. And in given moments, we can show that it's not 100% true by curiosity, right? And so, again, applying all this to fatherhood and going, okay, well, how can I be curious about my 6-year-old, 9-year-old, 12-year-old? It's got to be more than how is school, because then they're going to be like, good, and then that's it. Like that's it. That's all you've got, Dad? Surely not, right? But my challenge to dad listening right now is like that's probably the level of questions that you ask all people in your life. You probably aren't very curious at all. And so now I'm talking about being intentional and curious with your children, and you're like, how do I do that? Which is fine, no big deal. At least be aware of the fact that you suck at it, and that's okay. Go to ChatGPT or go to Google and say, what are 10 questions I can ask my kids, or how do I be more curious with my kids, or like it's not that hard to actually want to do better. You just have to want to do better. I learned a long time ago, Brent, that people do what they want to do. People do what they want to do. And I'm trying to teach my kids that too. I just had a deep conversation with my 12-year-old just 3 nights ago about some, good behavior and then some not so good behavior. And it's like, look, people do what they want to do. She kind of looked at me like, I know. Think about that for a second. Not what you say you want to do. Not what you say is important. What you do tells me what you think is important. How you act, what your behavior is, how you respond. Right. So if you want to get to know your kids, if you want to be a better dad, do some of these things. And so I think you are making the point more of a like, how would I have known to do it on a 6-year-old? Yeah, totally get it. But unfortunately, there's a lot of dads out there, which they could probably be better even with their adult kids. Let's be honest.
I think it's funny because we just wrapped up a part of the year that actually helps answer this. This is really revealing for us as dads, right? We just got through the whole holiday season, right? Thank gosh, I hate the Christmas rush, right? But here's the question that stumps most dads, right? Do you know your child well enough to know what to actually get them? Like what will absolutely light them up, right? Or does your wife buy all the presents or,
Right.
do you just guess at what you think they, right? Do you
Yeah.
actually know your children well enough to know what you get them for Christmas will like just light up their world?
Yeah.
Because it's not always the most expensive thing, it's not always the fancy thing, right? You
Nope.
have to know your kid. Some kids, they want this little thing. It doesn't cost much, but to them, it's huge. And you can get
Yeah.
that for one kid where this other kid wants, they want the expensive thing, right? Because that's what they're into right now. Um, but just wrapping that up with my daughters, it was really funny because my wife and I were looking at it, and my younger daughter is in this phase where she's in between formulating her own identity.
Yeah.
She's really wanting to mimic the older one, who's really kind of my 14-year-old is always been old for her age. She's 14 going on 30.
Totally.
She some
Firstborn.
very definitive ideas about who she is and the direction she's going. She wants to be a tattoo artist when she grows up, and I'm totally cool with that. So we buy her like tattoo markers because I was like, okay, stop drawing on yourself with regular pens.
Yeah.
That's actually poisonous. So we'll buy you pens where you can draw on yourself, okay? So my daughter's got drawings all over her arms half the time. Half time we'll be sitting watching something, she's drawing on me.
Yeah.
I'm walking around with all this art on my arms. It's not permanent, hopefully, most of the time.
Yeah.
But the youngest one is kind of in this. I like to do some of this. I like to do some of this, but she hasn't like actually found her lane. So Christmas was a little rougher. It's like, why didn't we really get her? Because she likes a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but she likes to mimic a lot of things her sister does. But, you start having to deal with that with holidays and with Christmas and birthdays. Like, do you really know what's going to light your kid up? How well is that processing? Because that's one of those moments where you're actually forced to deal with it honestly. As a dad, you're like, I don't know what my kid wants to wear. I don't know what they like to do.
Yeah. And that shows later, right? Like now it shows with it's a joke that mom buys everything. Everybody knows that mom buys everything and dad's just kind of there, but he bought it. So we kind of give him a pass and check. And he did his part. But that's where it shows now. But later in life, it shows when dad doesn't know or care to ask anything else either, and so I think it's a habit. Curiosity is a habit, but it's built on an identity of, do I want to know more? Do I actually care? Because different people show care different ways, right? Some I care, so I'm going to provide. Okay, fine, good, I like that. But dad is more than that. Dad's not just bank, right, or work. I guess it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be more than that. But I think people listening to this show want to be more than that. So great. How do you be more than that? Well, get curious. Be intentional. Figure out like what do we get them for Christmas? We're a little different. We do Christmas a little different. But what that means for us is that we do those intentional gifts throughout the year. So like the fishing trip was on purpose. We could have done anything. The father-son trip could have been, I'm the organizer of the whole business. We could have gone anywhere, could have done anything. But I specifically made it a fishing trip because guess what? My son wanted to go fishing. Ding, 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 ding. Like this is exactly what you were just talking about. So I think it's spot on. It's in being intentional. Let's go.
What are some of the other questions you put down?
Oh, let's see here. What's something hard that you've faced this year? And, again, probably get some different answers with my 12-year-old daughter on that one. But my 6-year-old son at that point was the hardest thing was reeling in the fish. What's a dream you have for your future? And he said to go hunting and pooling, which meant swimming in the pool. Yeah. I had to ask some clarification on that. I asked, how can I be a better dad to you? He said, go hunting with him. And at 6, what that really means is that we put our gear on, we go outside, we sit in some random spot on our property, and we hunt. For the listeners, the air quotes, we hunt. We wait for something to come by that probably never does, and that's okay. Because here in a few years, when he can hunt, we'll get up in the tree stand and do the thing. But that it doesn't matter. He was just the hunting to him is whatever it is that we've deemed it.
Have you asked your older daughters that question?
It's a good question. I haven't. As I was going through this, that's what I'm saying. Like, I should ask these questions. I did this at this event, and then, I've asked some other, how do you feel closest to me type questions. And usually the answers that we get there are like, when we're doing X, Y, Z together, which I still think is a great question because it gives you insight to what they like doing with your presence.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's still pretty powerful. The last question I asked was, what do you love about being my son? And he said that I play with him and read stories. And so the read stories part was like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, I do that, but like, I didn't know really that was really important to you. And so that was one of the things I took away from that was like, okay, the same, a similar question actually earlier on the sheet. When do you feel closest to me? That's the one I just mentioned. I've asked that one, my daughters, but and it's usually like, when we're doing homework together or doing something together that they get my help or that we're close. But his answer to that was when we're reading together. And so I was, caught off guard a little bit, going like, oh, wow, that's like out of all the things, like that's, I don't know if I would have guessed that. And so take note, let's do some more reading together, because I can also think about times where he's like, Dad, you read me a story. And I'm like, hold on, buddy, or I got to go to work, or, in fact, it's happened a couple times since then where him or even my younger daughter, who's only 3, I'm like literally about to walk out the door and, Daddy, will you read this book to me? And because of this question, because of this moment, I'll go, of course I will. Knowing that I'm going to be late, I sit down, I read the story. It was a couple of years ago that my son was probably, so he's 6 now, almost 7. He was probably 3, maybe something like that, 4. We were outside doing something. And I thought to myself, he's not even going to remember this. Like his subconscious is full blown right now. Like no actual memory being created. Interesting. And then it was like, boom, smack across the face. This memory isn't for him. It's for you. Talking about me. I'm like, oh, got it. Got to lock this one in. Right. So that's with the 3-year-old, especially with my daughter, my 3-year-old, who just like 3 days ago came up right before I'm about to leave. Daddy, will you read the story? And I'm like, of course I will, because she won't remember that moment ever. But I will. I'll remember, and I'll try to hold on to those,
She will actually remember that you were there when she asked you
Yeah.
to be, far
Exactly.
more than
Yes.
people realize.
You're right, because we're training their nervous system at that point. And you're 100% right. She will know that when she needed me, I was there. Exactly right.
Regular listeners on the show will know I'm a huge proponent for reading to kids. Like I actually have a children's podcast, and that's all we do. Just read stories to kids.
Love it.
Pro tip for most dads listening: honest to God, your children, you will create some of the deepest memories they'll ever have just spending time reading with them. I still read with my kids. We've just upgraded it from reading storybooks like I read at my children's program to now we sit around in the evenings and read Harry Potter as a family and take turns reading.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not just me reading to them. Now we're passing the book around because they're 11 and 14, and we're all sitting down as a family. So my wife is there. My mom lives with us. She's there. And we're passing the book, reading as a family, but we're reading out loud together.
That's cool.
Because
flashback to 150 years ago. That's
right.
Did.
Your kids will, reading to your kids when they're little, imprint so deeply, they will actually have a memory of that when they get older, even when it doesn't seem like they should. They'll remember that you stopped and prioritized them. And that's why they like that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's good stuff.
I don't know that all dads are brave enough at this point to ask their kids that question. And I've heard other people once or twice mention this idea of asking, how can I be a better dad? What do you think I do well as a dad, right? Actually letting your kids critique your fathering skills.
Yes.
Right. That's why I asked you, your older daughters. It's like, ooh, 6-year-old, you're still at that Superman range. As they move to that preteen range, they're starting to see a few of the flaws.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure I'm ready to ask my 14-year-old that.
Yeah. Well, I think that well, I mean, first off, I'll do it if you do it. And I think that the second that we become open to, well, first off, we have to be able to create an environment where they would even answer the question, right? Would they even be truthful is the better question, Dad. Assuming that they would be truthful, what would they say, and what would you do with it? You know, I could think of a couple things. You know, I could think of, you know, yeah, I mean, we're pretty intentional, but I think that, you know, the time that we spend trying to recreate hard is probably a good way to say it. You know, so like I grew up single mom family. We didn't have much. My kids live in a, you know, almost 5,000 square foot house. They don't need for anything. They have a dad that like really cares and loves them and is the complete opposite of my scenario. And my two oldest daughters just bought their first business at 9 and 12. So like, what is it that is hard for them? Except for what I try to purposefully create so that life isn't that easy. I don't need them to redo the things or have the struggles that I've already overcome. But I do have to fabricate and create situations for hard, because life is hard. And even though they've got a bunch of cool stuff that I didn't, if I'm not intentional about making things challenging or allowing them to press on their muscles a little bit, even their mental muscles. And so I can think of some situations in there where they, you know, either maybe they don't like it or maybe they do. I'm curious to hear their answers.
Oh, this I'm laughing internally because this conversation is so right along a podcast episode I'm about to record for my other show. Like it's just so funny that this correlated. Like I'm recording it right after this one. So you're just making my other podcast even better too. You just didn't even know it.
That's awesome.
I love the idea of making sure you're more curious about your kids and approaching them with curiosity. And I think you're right. I think as people, we're really, really bad about being curious outside of our own agenda. Right. I think a lot of times we stop being curious about our spouse, and that's why marriages deteriorate. But I love this idea of approaching your children with a curiosity as they become those little people. You said, you know, you're raising your grandkids.
Yeah, my grandkids' parents.
Right. So, yeah, but essentially that means you're raising your grandkids. And so,
yeah,
the approach of being curious about what's going on in your kid's head, what they're thinking about, what they're into, because it tells you so much about what's really impressing upon their lives. Yeah. Wow. I think this is a great, what's the right word? This is a great exercise there. There we go. That's the right one. This would be a great exercise for all the dads listening. And guys, I challenge you. Like, if you rewind the episode, get the questions, or hey, like you said, the age of Chat GPT, right?
Seriously. Yeah. Doesn't actually take that much effort to be better.
Right? It's kind of scary. But, you know, you can get those questions, find you some questions. I had one of the most rewarding conversations I've had. My daughter and I used to get up. I'm a fair weather walker. It's really cold when I get up in the mornings right now. But as spring comes back along, I'll get up and go walking early in the morning. It's like 4:00 in the morning, before I start my day. And my oldest daughter will go with me a lot of times. And we had this conversation one time when we were walking along. She's gotten into anime. I was never a big anime person, but like she's got a couple aunts who are big into anime. So I was like, okay, right there. There's some guidance in there that can help, you know, steer that a little bit.
Yeah.
But she had gotten into this anime, and I actually know which one it is. But we were walking and talking. I was like, well, what, you know, tell me what you're loving right now. right? And she's like, well, you don't really want to hear about this. I said, I do. She's like, you don't even like anime. I said, but I love listening to you. So tell me all about it. If this is what you love right now, tell me all about it.
Yeah.
And over the course of like walking on and off for the next 3 days, I got like an in-depth 6 or 7 hours worth of explanation of My Hero Academia, which I have still never seen or read, but
Yep. Don't
I
need to
loved
now.
watching yeah, exactly. But I loved watching my daughter light up
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
as she talked about this thing that she just truly, really enjoyed. I'm like, all right. And I'm making my checklist in my head. Buy her more of these books.
Yeah.
It was just such a rewarding conversation to just listen to her talk about something that made her light up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Finding each one is what we talked about earlier, you know, not making it blanket, you know, just assuming that they're all into the same thing. You know, interestingly enough for us, you know, all of our kids are doing BMX, but I'm assuming at some point, you know, maybe one of them will be interested in something different or maybe not, you know. But it's their personalities still shine through, you know, so being able to find out why this thing is so important to them, you know. It was interesting. I once a month we do a like a success leadership call for kids inside of our community. And so we call it GXT, Generation Next. And both my kids, my daughters are on there. Usually it's like 8 to 18 kind of is the range. And so a couple months ago, I was asking about, we were setting plans for the next year for 2026. And my oldest daughter already won that, the same thing I just told you where my son won second. My oldest daughter took first in her age group. And my third daughter was bumped by another rider and wasn't able to make it through to the finals. And so she didn't have a chance to finish, which was a bummer. It happens in racing. And so my second daughter, she was like, I want to win, or I want to get rock one. I want to get that plate on my bike. And which was great, but like, it was like this, I don't know, like the way that she described it was like this, I don't know, like rounded, creative, soft, you know, just ability to just win. But it wasn't like, I'm a champion, I'm going to win. You know, it was like this, I don't know, very delicate, flowerish, I'm going to win answer. Anyway, and then of course my firstborn's like, you know, I'm a champion, I'm going to win, you know, just more of the direct, you know, firstborn type language. And so it was just, even though that they had the same goal, the way that it came out was so unique and different. So anyway, just kind of echoing on some of the things we've already said here today. It's pretty powerful.
As we wrap this up, Chaz, as we look to land this plane, first, before I forget, because I'm totally getting lost in this conversation, where's the best place for people to connect with you?
Yeah. Gatheringthekings.com is our website. So if you happen to be an entrepreneur and you want to build a business that runs without you so your family never has to, we've got different events like the Family Mastermind that I mentioned earlier. We've got coaching options that we work with entrepreneurs to be able to do that. But or you can just find me on social. I'm super active on Facebook and LinkedIn. I'm always down to connect and chat and help dads. So,
all right, guys. Of course, we'll have all of his contacts down in the social notes, or show notes, or podcast description, or whatever stinking platform you're on.
somewhere around here.
I am on so many platforms.
Yeah.
Now it's like when you ask people where they find your podcast, they're like, "Oh, I find it here," and then you get someone else like, "I find it, you know, on this platform." It's like, I'm glad I'm on 27 platforms. Yay! So, but we will make sure you can connect with Chaz. I'm really interested. I think that this is just off the cuff. Just hearing you talk about it, I love the idea of your program, because there are so many dads who are trying to live their best life. They're trying to be great dads, and they're consumed. They've built businesses because they believe that this was the best way they could provide for their family, and now they're stuck in the very thing that they built to give their family freedom.
Yeah.
and it's stealing that from them, and they're feeling that pressure. So I love that you're doing this. It just sounds amazing from the onset, and that you have built a community where you're interacting with the kids as well and got that going. That's incredible. Before we totally land this plane, we've touched on a lot and shared some amazing ideas today. If someone listening heard nothing else, what do you want them to leave with today?
That people do what they want to do. The whole show here, the reason why they're listening still after all this time is because they want to be a better dad. And so if you want to be a better dad, go be a better dad. Don't just say it. Don't just listen to a podcast. Go actually take the action that it takes to be a better dad. We've given you several things here on the show that you can go do to increase your intentionality or your curiosity or your care. But at the end of the day, people do what they want to do. So this year, 2026, will be full of things that you say are important. It will, when you look back at the end of this year and you think about all the things that you did or didn't do, the things that you did were the things that were most important. And so if you're a better dad, it's because you made it a priority and you did the thing you said you wanted to do. So go for it.
So honest. So honest. It's one of those favorite sayings. If it's really important to you, you'll make a way. If it's not, you'll find an excuse.
How it works.
Right.
Every time.
Guys, thanks for joining Chaz and I today on the Dad Hat Shenanigans podcast. We're just a community of dads navigating life's challenges together, trying to lift each other up. Until next time, laugh, learn, and live the dad life.